Hello, everybody, and welcome to Last Minute Kickout. A nice little trial vidcast slash podcast slash whatever Kev decides to do with this on the Last Minute Continue site. We're just going to talk about one of our favorite things, which is wrestling. And joining us, or joining me, is the boss man of Last Minute Continue himself. Hello, Mr. Kevin Eva.
Hello.
And longtime contributor to Last Minute Continue, Mr. Turbo, John Finley. How are you, sir?
Mrs. Finley's baby boy.
Mrs. Finley's baby boy, that's the one.
Oh yeah, Mrs. Finley's baby boy is here to, right here on Last Minute Continue.
Cheap pop.
Yeah.
So, yes, this will probably be maybe once a fortnight, or depending on, because we're going to do it mostly around the pay-per-views because it's a lot easier, and all three of us do not do this as full-time work, but doing it on a pay-per-view scale is a lot easier for us to try and manage instead of, as much as we'd love to spend every waking minute talking to you about something we love, pay-per-views are good enough for us for the moment. So, to inaugural episode, we had Hell in a Cell, the Smackdown pay-per-view that just aired recently. General thoughts before we get into breakdowns, guys? What are you thinking about it?
First, but you've got to say it right.
Hell in a Cell!
That's what
I really need to clean out the throat there.
I feel like I've swallowed a cheese grater this morning. It's fine.
It was like the ninth. It's like the ninth Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
Ninth
Something silly,
ninth Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and the 20th anniversary of the Hell in a Cell match.
Oh, really? I did not know that little tidbit.
That was heavily advertised through, or like heavily talked about by who's the commentator?
Yeah.
Tom Phillips. Mainly Tom Phillips was talking about it, saying that it was the 20th anniversary of the Hell in a Cell. 1997 was the first Hell in a Cell match.
Yes, I do remember that it was the anniversary of the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, with the introduction of Kane. That was it.
That's gonna be Kane!
Bad Blood 97. Can never forget.
But yes, general thoughts of the pay-per-view before we break it down match by match?
Overall, for myself, I was watching it live, and overall it was pretty good. I don't think it could be as high as what other people have been saying it's been. There were a couple of duds. A couple of matches were duds, and some of the stuff was a little long. We'll get into it later, but overall, it was a good show. I'll definitely say, even though we're not going to be talking about it, it's definitely better than Mercy from last month. So
I would certainly agree with that. It was definitely better than No Mercy. But yeah, it was a good pay-per-view. Nothing particularly wrong with it. Like Turbo said, couple of duds, but I mean, you always get like the odd dud on a pay-per-view, really.
Well, not every match can be great, and no. I mean, even if you look back to recent pay-per-views, there have been kickoff matches which have been better than the actual main show matches.
Oh,
so
we'll get to that.
Oh yes, we will. No doubt.
We'll certainly get to that. But yeah, but enjoyable throughout for the most part.
I'd agree. I'd say it's a good pay-per-view. Definitely better than the last Smackdown one. That felt like a bit of a letdown. I can't remember the name of that one. It eludes me right now.
I think it was Battleground?
It might have been Battleground. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Battleground had quite a few throwaway matches. And definitely better than No Mercy. I'd say it was on par with what SummerSlam was this year, actually. I thought SummerSlam wasn't a really good show. Again, had a couple of throwaway matches.
Well, the problem with SummerSlam, especially for the kind of like major four pay-per-views, is that there were so many matches on the card because it has.
Oh, it's a 4-hour show now, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was a pay-per-view that really suffered from fatigue.
Again, something we'll probably talk about later.
Yeah.
But yeah, the kickoff show match. John, how about you take us away with the kickoff show? What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I only like tuned into the kickoff show halfway through, but it was before the actual match. The kickoff match that we had was a tag match with the Hype Bros and Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin. It was a match. It's like I got a couple of notes here. I'll definitely say Shelton Benjamin was definitely on top form, regardless. During that match, as well as Chad Gable.
For someone that's not been back for very long, but has been on constant TV, I mean, he's going to be pretty much peak performance, especially on his coming back off the injury he had that delayed him on TV originally. Man, I sound so smarky right now.
Aren't we all going to be?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it was a good match. I just don't know where they want to go with the Hype Bros right now. They're obviously trying to push for a heel mark, and I thought when Zack Ryder came down in his own gear rather than Hype Bros, we were going to see a heel turn in that match and see Zack Ryder go on his own.
Yeah,
from there on.
But because it was on the pre-show, I think they wanted to wait until TV to actually do it, put on a Smackdown show.
I don't think they know.
Well, they've been on and off of it for
they've kind of gone both sides in terms of who could. They've got okay, someone's gonna turn, but we're not sure who. It could be both.
Yeah,
which they kind of teased a bit
well,
with one of the promos previously.
Yeah, because that. What was it? Kind of like the build-up to this was only like in the last couple of weeks, where Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin being interviewed on Backstage Smackdown,
which they showed at the match. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just called them in the match for the kickoff show, and really, for the angle and whatnot, it's not really much do about the two teams going at it. It is just dissension with the Hype Bros, which will eventually happen. It's just when will it happen? Could be tonight. This is being recorded on Tuesday. On SmackDown, it could a couple of weeks from now. Could be that next pay-per-view. Who knows?
I think we'll see more build-up with where that's going.
Yeah, hopefully.
Whether we see a continued rivalry with the actual boys themselves, like Benjamin and Benjamin Gable versus the Hype Bros, I don't know. Well, I think that storyline is going to be best progressed versus random tag teams on the division, and to see like, oh well, maybe we'll do better against this team, and we'll see that go from there, and they'll lose against everyone, and then they'll just implode. Maybe that'll be the direction to take that line, rather than going WWE's normal 50-50 booking.
Yeah, well, that's essentially going to be the case for both teams, essentially. Because that's where it's essentially going for both, which is a bit dull, but nevertheless.
Yeah.
In terms of the work rate of the match itself, like I said, Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin were on top form. There was one particular spot during the match where it was Chad Gable doing a belly to back suplex.
Yeah,
and then
that looked
getting
particularly grim.
Yeah, and then doing a moonsault afterwards. And this was after a failed moonsault attempt that he landed on his feet on. Mm-hmm. That was probably the highlight for that match from me personally.
Yeah, I'd agree to the most part, but it just has the normal staples of. I think the best part of the actual match was the beginning of that match, where we actually saw some proper ring psychology of like holding like the other tag team partner away from for like more than just a couple of tags. Like, solid like third of the match they were doing that, and I thought that was really good, and could have led again into part of the storyline for the Hype Bros of like, well, you didn't do anything, you just left me there. You could have come in to actually do something. Yeah,
there was a lot of kind of like good tag team work with Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin against either Mojo or Zach. So,
Kev, your thoughts?
So, I mean, I love Zach. I'm an unashamed Zach.
I'll tell you this much: the crowd didn't care too much about him at one point. No, when they were going for the hot tag, crowd was dead.
Yeah,
on the
that might be Mojo's fault.
But in all honesty,
all I will say is there was actually some really nice storytelling going on, not only from the commentators but in the ring itself. The crowd popped when we got Benjamin and Ryder, because it was the two veterans, and there was a little bit of a circle, and the crowd, even early days for that crowd, they were pretty hot for that. And then we had some nice chain wrestling after that, some nice reversals. There was the bit beforehand with Zach versus Chad, and there was the handshake, and there was the mutual respect thing, and then that played through because they had the series of reversals with Ryder and Benjamin, and then one sort of same thing, respect, and then he got punished for that. And it was a sort of an example of how, I think that will play back into the storyline, because it was just like Zach trusted, and either Mojo, I think you're a fool to trust. Benjamin was like, well, whatever. Interestingly, Chad Gale was really annoyed at that. He was with Benjamin. He was like, what the heck are you doing? Because and Ben just went, whatever. So maybe there's actually going to be some dissent on the other side as well.
That's what it's kind of leading to.
I mean, I agree, because if we remember all the way back to when they introduced Benjamin on SmackDown, we had Gable being incredibly cocky straight off the bat.
It's interesting, but so you have that. You've got the failure of that, and how that could affect the Hype Bros. That can go either way. Like I say, there was actually some good little harking back on the commentary team. I really liked the SmackDown commentary team that we had.
With the exception of Saxton, I completely agree.
Saxton, I could,
I'm still of the opinion we need to go back down to 2-man commentary teams.
If we lost Saxton, I'm not sure if it would make much difference. Saxton's very good for almost sort of more natural reaction to things.
I mean, yes, but Saxton also brings to the table the same thing that what's his face does. The one they replaced with Booker T on Raw.
Additional Booker T.
Yeah. Well,
they replaced Booker T with more Booker T.
But Booker T is a prime example. But it's like they have natural reactions to things, but what they say quite a lot of the time is irrelevant to what's going on. And it draws away from what the commentators should actually be doing in terms of casting the actual match.
Yeah.
And it's really annoying, because I like them for what they've done. I like them for the time they've put in, but in part of a commentary team, they do draw back a lot on what the commentary teams could be doing. Like it works well, but the way they've got it set up is they've got the normal play-by-play, and then that we've essentially got one JR and 2 Jerry Lawlers essentially. But we've got, in terms of the SmackDown commentary team, we've got Corey Graves doing a bit of both. Like it's very hard, because
it only makes sense because Corey Graves is trying to be more Jesse Ventura than King.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
agree with that. Anyway.
The match ended with Chad Gable getting the pinfall win on Zack Ryder in 10 minutes and 20 seconds. It's actually not bad for a kickoff show.
It's quite lengthy in the comparison terms, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was one promo that was leading into the main show as well on the kickoff, which was Ty Dillinger getting put into the US title match. The promo was good. It was funny. I think it went on for a little bit too long and became a little bit too tiresome because they were expecting more crowd to join in. But as evidenced during the match, there was no crowd there because there were so many empty seats during that kickoff show. It felt like a SummerSlam moment, like when The Miz and the Hardy Boys.
Hardys, yeah. I would like to add on top of that the promo that Baron Corbin had afterwards. That was also on the kickoff show, which ended up kind of like a Scott Steiner light promo of math.
Yes.
It's like it was a little bit like that. He was like, I only have a 33% chance of winning now. It's like I thought he was gonna go into the whole spiel, but nah. This is Baron Corbin we're talking about. He's not going right over into it. But no, I had a little small chuckle when that was when he was whinging about the singles match he had originally wanted turned into a triple threat because of Ty Dillinger.
And it was unfortunate because at that moment we knew exactly what was going to happen with that match.
I mean, you're not wrong, but
we'll get to that.
I went into this feud watching how it progressed, thinking the match should have been a triple threat anyway. Like everything leading up to it makes it feel like it should have been a triple threat off the bat.
One last point before we get off of the pre-show.
Yeah.
What on earth was David Otunga wearing on his head?
I have no idea. And now you've just reminded me, David Otunga was the other person who was supposed to be on Raw. But no, it is questionable what he was wearing on the pre. I wasn't really paying too much attention.
It was some kind of hat. I don't know what.
Something.
I think
it was some headdress of some.
No, it was like some. Considering what we've seen him in previously, he was wearing some kind of beanie, and it just like it was just like what?
It's the style of the time, apparently.
Careful, he's a movie star now.
Or is he now?
A serious movie star.
Is he now?
Oh, this is where David Otunga comes back as part of the Miz Taraj.
Don't. I like Miz.
So do I. So does everyone.
So why are we saddling him with David Otunga?
Because I don't know.
Booking?
I don't know. Because they have something in common. Anyway, yes. Let's move on to the mini card.
Pretty much the pre-show. I think it was a pretty solid pre-show. Again, better than most of the other stuff that we've seen previously from other pay-per-views. I don't know though. The main show had a really amazing kickoff match in terms of the New Day versus the Usos in Hell in a Cell for the Smackdown Tag Team Championships, which was an amazing match. In all honesty, they've stolen the show on so many Smackdowns and pay-per-views recently that the fact that they were kicking this off, I think, was just basically because they were spreading the two Hell in a Cell matches out.
Yeah. How many times has Usos and New Day been on the kickoff show? I think they actually said this when they had their sort of promo in ring where they sort of said about.
They were on the kickoff show for Battleground, I believe.
Yeah, and they've said, how many times have we done this and how many times have we stolen the show? Both teams, the two of us, how many times have we done it? And yet again, I totally agree. What an amazing match in terms of creativity, stuff we've not seen in Hell in a Cell before. They were confined in the sense that they actually had to obey by confined in the cell because hey, we don't want to blow all the obvious things of Hell in a Cell. It's like, hey, this structure that you're not supposed to have anyone get in or get out. It's amazing how often you get out of it.
No, absolutely. And I was expecting someone to get away make a way out for Kofi to get in, but it didn't happen, and which was astounding.
There was some sweet ass psychology going on with that.
Yes,
lots of it. In terms of not just inside, outside the cage, playing with Kofi about how he couldn't do it, doing a lot of the stuff in front of Kofi, and Kofi was like obviously really torn. But I think there's creativity everywhere in terms of what was going on. Really vicious stuff. Like, I mean, the very first thing was like just throwing the chair at Woods with venom.
Woods is one of the spots. I mean, there's a lot of spots, but the one that really stood out for me was when Woods was when Big E was knocking one of the Usos down, and Woods just suddenly out of nowhere comes in and does the backbreaker.
Yes,
it was. Yeah,
that was such a.
It was like a rock bottom off of Unagi.
Yeah, it was
off of the
Big E Unagi,
like a lung blower.
It was such a scary thing, just out of nowhere.
It was very close as well, because I actually thought that the Woods almost mistimed it and nearly kind of like injured himself there. But no,
I think he did something in his leg.
No, he'd previously hurt his knee, which is why it was braced. That was the injury he was coming off of. So I think he probably hurt it again. But I think that was after he'd been squashed in the corner as well, and that was pretty. Because his head pretty much went into the corner of everything, and it was like,
A couple of things I point out. Big E's crazy. How many dives he did in that match was an absolute.
There was a
mind-boggling.
I think it was like the first proper suicide dive he did, where no one else was in the way, and you saw the cage bend.
Yeah,
I was just like,
God.
God.
It was right at the beginning of the match as well. The cage immediately, and it's funny because actually Shane went into the same spot later on, and that was just bowing like crazy at that point. Big E definitely.
Yeah,
crazy.
A couple of other notable spots involving the Usos. I really loved how they used the kendo sticks to pin one of the Usos into one of the corners of the cage.
Yeah, the kendo cage. Yeah,
that was probably the most ingenious way of using those kendo sticks and the cell. And I don't even think anyone's actually done that at all.
No, there was a lot of spots in this. Yeah, there's a lot of spots in this match. But I mean, when was the last time we had a tag team Hell in a Cell match? I mean, that's.
Oh well, Barry. Yeah, a tag team tornado match.
No, there was there have been quite a few tornado tag team matches of late.
Well, not to recent memory on my end, but in terms
I think it's
of,
because it's been on a house show rather than a pay-per-view.
Aye.
But yeah, it's having the additional use of the weapons as well. Like it didn't feel like it was overdone. It felt like the match was just long enough. It felt like just about the right amount of stuff was used. And it felt like just the amount of storytelling was told as well in this match. Like,
speaking of stuff that was used, Xavier Woods, thank you for the Mortal Kombat reference with the gong. And now for a taste of things to come. Bang.
Nice.
Oh, that was crazy.
That whole musical instrument segment was actually good.
With cowbell as well. Oh.
Yeah, granted, I'm not the biggest New Day fan, but I did appreciate that, and I appreciate everything that both Big E and Xavier Woods were doing in that cell with Usos. Like, especially another spot moving on is the Usos handcuffing both members, and especially Woods, who took an absolute beating with.
Do you know what that spot reminded me of?
Shane McMahon and Kane?
No.
Orton and Cena.
Rock Foley in the I Quit match.
Oh. I mean, granted, Rock Foley Royal Rumble was way more brutal than this.
No, absolutely, but it was more the handcuffs and then just the savagery of the weapons.
Yeah.
Unprotected savagery being hung from the post with the cuffs, first of all. And
I think, what was it?
Himself.
Yeah, there was a photo that Xavier Woods put up on his Instagram that went up, and that was like the welts he put on that there. Yeah,
from that he really is. But again, it was really good. The savagery of the Usos played in a lot throughout this match.
Yes,
and I mean we're talking a lot about what the New Day did, and a lot of their stuff was quite showpiecey. But throughout, the Usos were very, very vicious. The beating that Woods got, which if you could ever put a wrestler through a match and then at the end of it everyone respects him because Jesus, you're a man. That was one of the few disappointments I have about the match is that afterwards, when Big E got up, because Big E was obviously been taken down for Woods to be beaten, I wish they'd let Big E run riot a little longer, because he got up and he was pissed, and it was like they did like a few hard slams and what have you, and I think that might have been when he hit the big ending. I don't know, but
I mean, in terms of the storytelling for this match. The only thing I'm unhappy about with the way they're going, like, it went into the match build as the end. This was going to be the last match regardless. But that instantly makes you think that the New Day were going to retain. But because the Usos won, is there no rematch clause?
Well, this is the same case when Charlotte and Sasha Banks had their last match, and Sasha Banks was the champion. Charlotte won the title back, I think, and then they didn't have a rematch after that.
I think it was more they were trying to go, okay, this is the Usos' last chance, and it's back of the queue. So
I mean, where do they go from here? I mean,
well, we'll find out on tonight's SmackDown, I think. But I would think that they might want to change it up, put another tag team up.
No, absolutely, again. Because I think the only way those tag teams can go anywhere from here would be an I Quit match. I think that's literally the only way they can go forward from this, which means it's essentially no disqualification with weapons matches, but it's the only way you can realistically call it an end to the storyline.
It would then play. That would actually play really well into Woods' beating.
Yeah,
if they did that.
Yeah, but yeah, the overall time for that was 22 minutes, which is actually not bad. Actually, 22 minutes of all that action happening in the ring there. It practically flew by at times. So, but yeah, Usos got the victory with what was it? Their double splash on Xavier Woods with him having a chair on top of him.
Chair assisted.
Really, a good end. An end.
It was a good ending. It was a good ending to a good match. Yeah.
Aye.
Absolutely. What was the next match, John?
Next match was that of Rusev versus Randy Orton.
Oh.
This was not one of those good matches that earlier.
This is a standard thing of either WWE caving to keep Randy on their good side, or just mistreating Rusev. And
I think it's a bit.
It is.
I think it's a bit of both, and I think it's also a case of SmackDown don't know what to do.
It's holding pattern.
Yeah.
Please do this feud while we try and get you into a place where we can do so. And it was kind of obvious during the match. Orton has for a while just wrestled looking bored.
Yeah, but that's just Orton in general.
Yeah, but Orton's not happy because Orton wants to be a heel.
Yes.
Rusev's not happy because have you seen Rusev's career last 2 years?
Well.
Why wouldn't Rusev not be particularly happy? And it was just... It's a feud that just went nowhere. It was a match that went nowhere. Apart from one glorious moment at the end, which we'll get to, but for me, it was just a waste.
Well, yeah, one thing that I was completely annoyed by is in the week's building to this was Aiden English, kind of like being a associate with Rusev and whatnot. But he was never here for the match. He was on the pre-show. I totally forgot about that. He was on the pre-show. He was on the panel, hyping up the match and putting Rusev strong. But he wasn't there. Didn't make an interference or anything like that. No, he didn't put anything into the match itself. It was a bit disappointing.
There was a tweet that went past when I was watching it, and I just happened to see it, which was so why are we supposed to be annoyed with Bulgaria?
Because foreigners.
Why is Rusev Why is Rusev to us supposed to be a heel apart from he is foreign man?
Yeah, it's like that whole gimmick is so outdated now.
This is the problem with the current bookers, though, and it's not going to change until the old guard passes. It's old guard, old ideas. But unfortunately, because of the way America really is, and America is always USA, anything that shows America in about, especially recently with everything that's happened over there. Anything that Americans can do to prop themselves up is generally a good idea in their eyes, I imagine. So I don't know.
That would make sense if they'd stuck with Rusev being this Russian hero, but they wrote themselves out of that.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't remember now.
This for Rusev, this has gone wrong all the way back to when Rusev was meant to be debuting on Smackdown. I meant to be going to Shane. I want my championship match. No, sorry, John. After you.
I was gonna talk about the end of the match, but if you have something else,
no, I'm only gonna fucking secondary thing. So you just go on about the match. Keep us on topic.
The only thing I can really talk about is the end. Pretty much the ending was pretty the highlight, really. Was it Randy Orton doing the DDT? Then Rusev was able to counter Orton by almost putting him into the accolade, and then Orton counters that and then pulls off an RKO and gets the pin. Which I thought was I thought it was actually a decent spot for finishing that match, but afterwards, I don't know how quick I've forgotten the passage of time of that, but Rusev was already out of that ring, walking out up the ramp quite quickly, even after the replay, and I was like thinking, wait, isn't an RKO supposed to like put them down like, proper? It's like,
yeah,
okay. So it just goes to show you that Rusev doesn't have two monkeys about it. And also, this match went on for 11 minutes 40. I'm thinking, really?
But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, for what it was, I mean, both wrestlers not really caring so much. And
there was not a single match on this pay-per-view that went under 10 minutes. And for some of the matches, that's not a good idea.
I mean, the card was specifically announced, I believe, early in the show that there were only so many matches, but they were big name matches. Like,
just double checking.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches.
Yeah, I was right.
Pre-show.
Yeah, and every one of them was over 10-minute mark. So,
but I mean, I don't know. It felt long enough. I just didn't care because we knew who was gonna probably like. I would have loved Rusev to have a win and actually walk away from that match, but with how badly he's been treated, I just there's no care going into that match for me. Like, I've got no
investment.
That's the word. Yeah, I've got no investment in that match because I'm not the biggest Orton fan in the world. He's very boring to watch. Like, every match is now for Orton, it's like, oh, it's the RKO out of nowhere. So he goes to pull it out of nowhere, it gets blocked. He goes to pull it out of nowhere, it gets blocked and rolled out of, and then he'll pull it out of somewhere in the end, and then it's over. Like, why is the RKO become this match ender? Like,
because memes.
Yeah, well.
Yes, quite. In all honesty.
Yeah, but I'll say this: even turning him heel will not do anything, because the man's he's essentially the mirror image of John Cena. He's been in with the company for so goddamn long, yet he is not changed in the last decade. The only reason for Randy Orton turning heel would be for Randy to have more fun with what he's doing. And that's just for him. It doesn't matter for the audience.
And the thing is with Randy's character, he can turn heel by doing nothing.
Yeah.
It's just literally, what is Randy Orton like when he's heel? He's Randy Orton. What is Randy Orton like when he's face? He's Randy Orton.
I mean, you only have to watch the storyline with Bray Wyatt to see that he was just Randy Orton. Yeah,
it was all along. You were the real monster, Randy Orton, because it turned out you were Randy Orton. The one thing I should get before we get off this match, and John mentioned it earlier, the thing that really irked me about the match, because we know nothing's going to happen in terms of forwarding anyone, but I can't really remember Rusev having a moment so much that he could at least go away from the match with somebody going, Rusev did this. And at the end, when Randy was doing his thump on the mat and signaling for the RKO, as John said, there was this wonderful moment where Rusev grabbed both of his fists from laying down on the back on his back, grabbed both of his fists as he came down, and like rolled himself back over into the accolade, almost. And had they actually gone through and actually been put into the accolade, people would have been, the crowd would have, I mean, they started to pop for that. And then it was like cut off. But it would have been this great moment. It wasn't something we'd seen before, reversal-wise, onto that. It was something new. And it would have given Rusev this one moment where he was actually going, hey, look, Rusev was able to do this.
I think that would have been a great finish to the match,
it would have been a great finish. And then have Orton reverse out of that by all means, or steer out of that, but at least do something. At least let him lock it in, or at least half lock it in, as opposed to just getting him and sort of half straddling him. And
the problem is, I can already see the meme coming out of that as being the accolade out of nowhere.
Hey, it'd give Rusev something.
Oh yeah,
that would be something absolutely. He could play off of. That I can put you in the accolade out of nowhere, even when you least expect it. But instead, it didn't. It was like half a reversal, and it was like, oh, he's out of it. RKO match over. Rusev's walking up the ramp, as John said. It just irked me because it was such an original reversal to stop the process for the RKO, and it was sort of wasted. And it's so difficult to get something that's new, to have something that's like, oh, that was really
yeah, that's the problem.
It was the shit cherry on top of a very mediocre cake.
It was almost like it felt like it was a piss break match.
Probably was.
It probably was, but then
I've got t-shirts in the black. I've merch there, please. Or
yeah,
give me.
But I mean, there's still a couple of other things that felt like it tonight as well. Like good pay-per-view, but there were a couple of these matches. John, what was the next match?
Next match was probably a good one for the kind of like middle of the point of the pay-per-view. It was the triple threat match for the United States Championship, pitting AJ Styles against Ty Dillinger and Baron Corbin.
It felt like a good match, mostly because quite a few of these guys still feel like they've got stuff to prove. Less so for AJ Styles compared to Baron Corbin and Ty Dillinger. But Baron Corbin's obviously, with the way we've all read and found out, has got a lot to make up for. Ty Dillinger's, apparently it was his first Smackdown pay-per-view appearance, even though he was on the Rumble and he was on the Kick Show, I believe, earlier on in the year. Yeah. This is his first proper pay-per-view appearance. So they obviously just went out there with a good match to show. Yeah,
it was also a title match as well, so it's definitely a good showcase for Ty and AJ. Their chemistry was definitely good. I mean, granted, all of them actually did very well with each other. Usually, the problem with triple threats is that they tend to kind of like focus on just two wrestlers for a good while, and then just swap out after a bit, and then focus on them for a while. But no, I felt that this match had a little more fluidity between the three competitors and interchanging the kind of like different pair-ups. So you had like AJ and Baron Corbin, and then AJ, Ty Dillinger, and then Ty Dillinger, Baron Corbin, whatnot. It kind of like swapped it out quite well, I thought.
Yeah, I'd agree. I like the start where they both hit Baron Corbin.
Oh yeah,
that was quite funny.
That was the typical kind of like faces going after the heel.
Yeah, well, the heel's going
early
after
on.
the face.
It was logic in the beginning of a WWE match, which is always nice to see.
I
don't know. I wasn't too.
I think it was a good match, but there was nothing memorable about the match, with the exception of the ending where it looked semi-botched by Baron Corbin, of just pushing AJ out of the ring. But there wasn't anything memorable to it, which makes it stick out in my mind and go, this match was brilliant. I remember this, this, and this. You know, like if we maybe got an end of days on somewhere that would have just put somebody out of the match. Like the best thing about it was like phenomenal forearm. Baron runs in, takes the shortcut by pushing AJ out the ropes, gets the pinfall, wins. But you know, we had with how some of their finishes work, there was such an ability to have some spectacular spots somewhere in this match, and they didn't. It didn't feel like they took that chance.
I don't know. I mean, AJ took quite a number of good bumps on like failed attempts at some of his moves. I mean, I've got one note talking about one phenomenal forearm he was about to do. Baron Corbin just like blasts him, and he like
he just dropped dead.
Dropped dead, yeah. I thought
he was
jeez,
basically.
yeah. So AJ was like selling like a boss on that spot there. I think there was like another one later on that AJ AJ's what was it 450
Springboard
splash
450.
springboard 450. I love that.
That was a distance as well, and he landed.
Yeah.
No, that was pretty good. But my point was that I don't look back at that match and go, I remember it for this point.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
it's definitely not like intercontinental triple threat circa 2000 2001 era kind of like memorable kind of like moments. But
I mean you border on nostalgia there,
yeah,
for how far back you are. But I'm more talking about exactly what we talked about in the tag match at the beginning of the card. Like, you look at that and there were such memorable spots there, like the kendo cage and everything else.
Basically the entirety of this show. That's how good it was.
Yeah, that's how good it was. But there are memorable spots after memorable spots. The US match felt like it was a very safe way to try and get Baron and Ty over to the crowd.
Yeah, it definitely was. I can definitely agree on that.
For me, I didn't like it. Actually, I didn't like the match. It felt very much like Ty could have been anybody in that match. To me, in terms of what he did in it, it could have been absolutely anybody, and I don't think they did enough in terms of putting over how good Ty is.
Okay, I'll give you that one, Kev.
I mean, yeah, this is something you mentioned when we mentioned about the pre-show and Ty getting put in that match, and you knowing where that match was going to go.
You know, we knew at that point going in, okay, he's eating the pin because you've put him in there to eat the pin and project AJ Styles. Does that actually help? I mean, would that have harmed AJ to have lost, to lose and be pinned by Baron Corbin? Doesn't really. It hurts Ty.
I don't. Yeah, well, that's all it is. It's all it's done is it's hurt Ty Dillinger
that's
out.
All this is done. In terms of the match, same as you, Pete. It was just like a case of like things happened.
Yeah.
AJ bumped like a boss because he's AJ freaking Styles. I swear every time he does that back body drop and he goes up and he's freaking vertical for a swap, and then he switches his body weight and then he comes down. Every time he does that, I'm just like, oh, please do not die. And I can never stop saying it. I've literally got 4 notes for this entire match just to get. First of all, Baron Corbin didn't get his nickname read out in the intros, which I thought was very funny. Because we had the Perfect 10 and the Phenomenal One and is Baron Corbin.
Baron Corbin.
That was quite funny. Another one which was just a case of I couldn't hear it, but it ended up sounding quite funny as a result, was Baron Corbin out the ring. The crowd started chanting something at him.
Where's your briefcase?
Where's your briefcase?
Oh, where's your briefcase? Because I didn't hear where's your briefcase. Well, I was trying to, and it sounded to me like "Where's your regain?" Now, to explain to any American viewers who are watching this, Regain is the UK brand name for Rogaine, aka hair replacement. get hair replacement tonics and what have you. So inadvertently, I said that made me really laugh because I thought it was that, and I had to quick look about it. Oh, it's not that, but I wish it was because it would just been so perfect to be chanted. The other notice I've got is AJ can officially fly. There was a throw / hip toss pretty much out of the corner. AJ just went.
Oh, that was Baron Corbin throwing.
Baron just flung him, and he twisted around.
It's like from one corner, almost to one corner to the other. Yeah,
he almost like coast to coast, just with a throw of AJ Styles. He landed really hard on his hip as well. I was kind of wincing at that. AJ's got enough problems as it is with his back and stuff.
Well, he's got DDP yoga. He's fine.
Yeah, there's only so much even DDP can do, and I know you're a paying customer and all, John, but there's only so much.
You shill.
Every time that we, I don't know.
We're not sponsored by DDP Yoga.
That happens to
however,
be one of his yoga moves actually is.
Yeah.
And the other one is there was because that was the other thing with the back. AJ did a Bret Hart-esque move where he actually did a slide under the ring post, but like going back first into.
Oh yeah,
post.
aye.
And it didn't quite work, mostly because of the way the ring posts are shaped nowadays, I think.
Yeah.
But that was a very sort of Bret Hart move, and you very rarely see it done nowadays. And it looks like it kills you, probably because it does.
Well, with the amount of extra stuff around those ring posts these days for the extra Titantron-esque look,
I hate
any type. I don't mind them, but it does mean that there's a lot less done. Even though there seems to be a lot more ring apron stuff done these days. It does make them stand out a little bit more.
I was gonna say, tell that to Cesaro.
Yeah,
He was able to make use of them.
I think they're dangerous to be honest. I can see why they've done it because it's like because did that, and also you've got an extra platform now, so it's easy to perform top rope stuff. But at the same time, it's a bit too much for me. But anyway, I thought that was a good move.
Yeah.
Other than that, so we've got Baron Corbin picks up the win following a pinfall, and I didn't actually mind that he kind of fumbled getting AJ out.
Yeah,
because that came across as like more frantic.
Yes, no, it did. But the way it was done, the way the kick happened, it looked like it's like I've kicked, but I missed, and then I've gone to kick him again. It looked more like it was a fuck up rather than
semi-botch. Semi-botch.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's one of those where it's botched, but it somehow can still play.
Yeah, and save.
And safe.
But the way the kick was done, I do agree. It adds more to the viciousness of Baron Corbin, the way that looks.
Well, that is obviously supposed to be his character. He's this lone wolf that's just trying to.
Is he? I'm pretty certain they didn't say.
Well, they didn't say. They didn't announce him as one, but. But no, he's always scavenging for trying to
scavenging for ways in order. If they actually kept that up and with his character and actually, the opportunist guy, then that would be good.
Obviously, going forward with this storyline, we're going to see more AJ versus Baron, unless I presume you guys watched Talking Smack.
Yeah, I did watch it after.
I'm sure we'll make mention. Yeah, I'm sure we'll make mention of it, but AJ seems to lean towards doing other things other than teaching Baron a lesson. So whether they'll move on to a Baron and Ty Dillinger instead.
If you were AJ Styles, you'd want out of that program pretty quick, to be honest.
I don't think there's anything in there for AJ to gain and more to help Baron get elevated.
Yeah, and plus AJ, from last year's performance as WWE champion, it's best for him to be back into the main events scene to try to go after the WWE championship again.
I agree.
So, you know, I think this is gonna be a perfect opportunity for him to get back into that race.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about our thoughts on the championship scene for the main title when we get to that match.
Yeah.
But it was nice. It was a nice run while it lasted. US Championship. Thanks for having some good matches.
Yeah.
We
I
did
don't
not expect it for a while.
I don't think the US. Why are they using AJ Styles to pick up on everything Cena has done well?
Because I think the idea is that it's playing off that he's better than Cena.
Yeah, it's like based on his kind of like skills. He is a person that can elevate, you know, things.
I agree.
Obviously, they want to elevate the title.
But I don't understand why AJ needed to do an open challenge. I don't understand why AJ had to take, you know, some nicknames out of a feud he had with Cena and take it like running and like use that thing. Like, it feels like AJ's being less of his own person at times and more what John Cena has pushed onto him. At times it feels like it to me.
I see why he did the open challenge, because he was kind of honouring the thing that kind of got him his break and his feud with Cena, and the open challenge was the thing that started that whole ball rolling.
Yeah.
In terms of opportunity. As for the other nickname, the champ that runs the camp can kindly go and die. As a nickname, it can go die in a fire.
He hasn't used that for a long time, that one. But
the face, no. But do they not still introduce him as the face that runs the place?
Nope. He's just a phenomenal one.
They can all go. He's the phenomenal one.
Granted, what I was gonna say, the face that runs the place and champ that runs the camp are all heel persona. AJ's
guy you can guarantee to have a good match with.
SmackDown is still the house that AJ Styles built, which seems more heelish than anything else.
But it's something that the crowd is with.
No, absolutely.
The crowd love chanting his chanting. So I guess that stuck.
It also doesn't play well that he was using that with TNA. As TNA is the house that AJ Styles built. So it's like, wait, Smackdown's TNA. Well, got Bobby Roode, I guess. So, you know.
Yes. Moving on to the next match, though. I believe it was the Women's Championship, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. With Natalya versus Charlotte, the SmackDown Women's Championship.
And Natty breaking the record for most pay-per-view appearances by a female performer.
Indeed.
Breaking the record that was previously held by Trish Stratus, and well deserved.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think it's also part in why she has a reign at the moment, because she's been there for a long time and she's put the work in.
I mean, she's only had one other championship run, I think.
No, she's held all three belts, hasn't she? She's held the Women's Championship when it was the Women's Championship, Divas, and she's held the new Women's Championship.
I don't think she held the Women's. She definitely held the Divas Championship.
I'm going to go look.
But yeah, it'd been years between reigns.
Yes, no, it's absolutely been a long time.
Yeah, and there was plenty of opportunities prior to this run that she could have easily had the championship and had a good run with it, but you know, the booking committee didn't want to give her that opportunity. I'll tell you this much: thank God she doesn't wear cat ears to the ring after this one. I hated that. I know she loves cats. I'm a cat lover. I'm a lover of cats as well. I love cats, but I am not obsessed about them. She shouldn't have had that as a persona of her character on TV. You can leave that on Total Divas, but don't put it on WWE.
That's the writers not knowing anything else about her.
That's what's ridiculous. I'm glad she didn't have the cat ears on tonight at Hell in a Cell. She looked obviously she's a heel, you know, character champion at that this time, and she needed to act like one, and she acted like one in this match. Obviously, a couple of notable things. Obviously, it's obviously one problem I did have with the promo before the match. It's obviously reflecting about Charlotte and her emotional distress with Ric Flair being hospitalized and whatnot. I really hate it when WWE do that. They did it before with Charlotte and her brother, the Paige feud a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And that was tasteless. This could have been even more tasteless had Ric Flair.
I just don't think they understood the direction that they wanted the storyline in this match to go. Many times during the actual commentary of the match, they were talking about, and leading up to the match, they were talking about it's the Hearts versus the Flairs. It's a thing we've not really seen since the early 90s.
Which is bollocks. Because,
yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, because we saw this in NXT. It's like
which they then said.
Yeah, alright. So,
but you got to remember that NXT isn't canon WWE television. So,
well, apparently, based on Asuka's kind of like promos, I think it is canon, being that she's undefeated.
Oh well, remember, later on, we're discussing this sort of lack of continuity between what they're saying. Later on in the Ziggler-Rude match, we had about how, you know, Rude's not made it in WWE, he's not made his mark, and then it was just like 5 seconds later, just like, yes, Rude, who's won the NXT championship.
I mean, this is the problem with trying to have stuff and set up as a separate brand, you know. And I mean, you can see it a lot with 205 Live as well, especially at the moment where everybody's really invested with it, with Enzo back on there. Where it's like, so nobody, after the first big thing where Enzo's like, I've got this piece of paper, any of you touch me, no one gets it. And then they do this whole big after Raw goes off segment where everybody hits Enzo with a finisher and everything. So nobody's allowed it. And then the following episode of 205 Live, bloody Daivari is chummy with him, but then back on the next episode of Raw, nobody's allowed a title match, and like everybody, even Daivari's against him again. I'm like, there's no continuity between the branding at the moment. And if they want to make 205 Live a good brand, if they want to make NXT a good brand, they need to actually fall in and give the thing its props that it deserves to make. So turning around and like they'll throw an offhand comment like, yeah, they were NXT champion, you know, they did really well, but then not really making the mark on WWE, as you said, Kev. It's just like, what?
And we had Shinsuke Nakamura, who was the same thing. He was just like, oh, this wonderful NXT guy. Just like, well, if they've both been champions, how is one guy this wonderful thing and the other guy just like, he's never made it?
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
But again, the match felt like it went into it the wrong way storyline-wise. It felt like it had a direction that it was meant to be leading up to. Like, they were waiting for Carmella to come down and cash in, because it was a very slow-paced match, and it was just like Carmella would come down and then they would fend her off. That's what the match felt like it was going into me, but then Carmella never appeared. Yeah. And it's just like... because she's been off TV as well recently, so I don't know what they're aiming to do. It feels like they're going in a weird direction with this. Like, I don't understand why you would make Carmella a threat on the house shows by cashing in throwaway matches and then not do it on a big pay-per-view. You want her there with the briefcase, even if she's there as a guest commentator, just there with the briefcase.
I liked that period, the period where she has been there, like literally sitting in the corner, like as this constant threat, because no one's really done that. No one's really just go, okay, every match you're there, I'm gonna be there. Better not lose.
Yeah, like, it's normally like they have that little tease at like the go home show of a pay-per-view coming up. But with Carmella, no, she's been like a constant hounding, kind of like intimidation character with that briefcase in tow.
Yeah,
like, and her treatment to Ellsworth as well.
I can understand if having Carmella always there is over exasperation of the character, but it also adds to the storyline that she's meant to be a constant threat with a briefcase, which we all know after how many goddamn years that thing is a threat.
Yeah, and you can play off it. You can play off it like the fact that she's always even just if you just don't have her do anything.
Yeah,
as if you have no reaction, like have had no reaction for like 3 weeks, and on the fourth week, just have her like just stand up and just sort of move towards, and then sort of go.
Even having her music come off, her walk onto the stage in the middle of the match, still adds to tension, even if she does nothing.
Yeah,
you know,
just any time, just have her there. Have her appear in the crowd. Have her appear in the skybox.
Yeah. Needs to. She just like that briefcase needs to be a constant threat. It needs to be. It doesn't matter who carries that belt. If Carmella chooses not to cash in at any time, she needs to be present as a threat, and it adds to that storyline, and it adds to the maliciousness of a heel character.
And you don't even need Carmella there. You're saying about the symbolism. You don't even need Carmella there. All you need to do is just like show the briefcase, show it backstage, like behind the curtain. Have a character just have it just sitting there, having it just appear on the stage or what have you. Lights go out, lights come back on. The actual case is there. It's like
absolutely.
Well, you gotta make the Money in the Bank briefcase Bray Wyatt.
The whole point is it's a psychological thing anyway. But you actually stop playing mind games by just having anywhere Natalia goes or whoever the champion goes. You just like every time that they go in the court, there's the case, or they see the case, or whenever there's like she's trying to do a promo, so there's a poster behind it which shows the case. You start sort of building it that way. But anyway, John's just put because we didn't have Carmella.
John's just put this wonderful idea in my head of actually Bray Wyatt having the Money in the Bank briefcase.
That's
and
what
then it's just like all of a sudden, like in the middle of a match, lights go out, and all of a sudden lights go back on, and the briefcase is just there in the middle of the ring, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
I just want to see. That just sounds really funny to me. So, I don't know why.
So bookers, WWE bookers. 2018, Money in the Bank, Bray Wyatt, Mr. Money in the Bank. You'll have tons of fun with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 things immediately. 1, the briefcase is Sister Abigail.
Don't.
2, open the briefcase, it's full of maggots.
Oh, God.
Or masks. Maggots or masks. Or worms. Depending on how it goes.
Yeah, trying to get back on topic.
Yeah, the match itself.
The match itself was okay. It was serviceable. It just felt like it suffered from the wrong jumble of storylines and what they wanted it to actually be. That's all it did to me.
I'll definitely say that Charlotte Flair was on top form with a couple of moves. The power bomb that she did to Natalia. From the, I think it was the second rope.
I believe so. Doing the power bomb.
Doing the power bomb. But speaking of the stuff, it was a very good power bomb. But the moonsault that Charlotte did felt a bit off because obviously she didn't connect with it.
Aye.
And I also don't understand the finish of the match because Natalia wasn't behind at any point. So I don't understand why the disqualification was needed.
I think it.
Do
go
understand that?
Go ahead.
Because the thing that they were playing off in terms of the story match and why it felt odd was because with the heel being on top was that Natalia's entire game plan, and they sort of set it up on the commentary, but didn't do a very good job on it. Was that she wanted Charlotte to tap out. That was her entire game.
Okay.
Into the movement, work the leg. You are going to tap out, which she already has done. But I think she wanted to be on the paper, so it was more meaningful. And okay, that's you then done. That's then Charlotte. If she taps out twice and she doesn't on the paper, then that's her done. So that was why she was working.
Okay.
And then if it wasn't working anywhere, which they'd see the frustration, just sod this, I don't need it, and then just whacked it with the chair.
Okay.
The sit-out powerbomb was really nice. Natty's now got this spot where she gets thrown back head first into the turnbuckle. Please stop doing that.
Yeah, that's a bad way to do work. Yeah,
that's not gonna help matters. Actually, it happened to Bailey accidentally, like 2 pay-per-views
and she got
ago.
knocked loopy.
And she got knocked loopy, and it looked really nasty. But I think Natty's done this a couple of. Please stop doing that. Charlotte really does not work as a face. I'm sorry.
No, she doesn't at all.
And especially as face in peril.
No, not when she towers over the rest of the division.
No, she doesn't. The moonsault was bad. I kind of.
She's done it so well before. She's done it so well before that I can only think it was just something on both their parts. Like
it didn't feel like they got the communication right, and Natty was expecting it to land somewhere else, and I think Charlotte was expecting to land somewhere else as well. So it all went a bit pear-shaped. Charlotte forgot which leg was hurt at one point when she was trying to get up.
No,
she was like, she's selling, and then she's like, was it this leg? No, it's this leg. It's this leg or something. Is it this leg? Let's just stick with this leg.
It's good that you caught that, because I totally missed her forgetting which one.
I completely forgot about it, actually, much like the leg.
Like I said, the moonsault was bad, but not nearly as bad as Natty's chair shots. Natty, you cannot swing a chair to save your life.
No, she can't.
Charlotte, she can do absolutely wonderful things, and the amount we'll have to get onto this at some time. Actually, the stuff that Natty does for WWE, not in the ring, because there's a whole lot there that we could discuss at some point in terms of actually how important Natty is seen inside WWE, but not in the ring. Ironically enough, at least not in the ring publicly. But yeah. Natty's chair shots was just like... I just think that chair shot would have served so much better if the ending of the match was Carmella comes out, has the briefcase, Natty hears it, panics, grabs the chair, goes for the disqualification, and then is like, bring it. That ending would have made so much more sense to me. And it's just like... You also get you escalate it with Charlotte, because then Charlotte's annoyed because...
It just would have made so much more sense as an ending. I don't know, honestly, but that's just me. I'm just a casual fan that's slightly smarky. So,
like I said before, aren't we all?
Yes.
Let's move up. We don't have a match next. It's the return of the Fashion Files that came about. Don't know if you guys are.
I like the Fashion Files. I don't think it was necessary to put it on a pay-per-view as a return.
Well, seeing that they kind of missed it out on last week, the Go Home show on Smackdown, and everyone was pissed about that. Apparently, it's like everyone did not like that whatsoever.
The thing is that Breezango has found the thing that gets them over with the fans, which is the comedy stuff.
Yeah. Which is the same as the New Day, essentially. It's like New Day,
but it's done in a very different light because the New Day work well on the mic, whereas the Breezango is clearly working better off of the actual crowd live, and actually, when they mix that comedy into what they're doing in the ring.
Yeah,
as we saw,
it's basically they're getting over material that we've seen, which was evident in this in the first shot that we saw was a picture of Cesaro with his teeth gone, or his teeth improved into this thing, and 233 underneath.
Massive pop from the crowd that got.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. That was really good.
I mean, they clearly know how to get the humor going because they've done it on this. They've done it in Fashion Files. They did it in I can't remember the name of the YouTube show that where they do all the parodies of the old
Southpaw Reasonable Wrestling.
Southpaw, yeah. They clearly got the humor down in there, and they clearly know how to get over with the fans. It's just. There's nothing really in terms of a storyline that they can mix those guys into.
Well, see, they did have one run with the Usos, and the crowd was really over trying, hopefully, that the Fashion Police would actually get the win over the Usos to get the titles, but of course it didn't happen.
Yes, but the problem is that you've got super serious Usos.
Yeah. Against
a comedy shtick.
Also, that match really suffered due to the comedy shtick.
Yeah.
It was because it all came about that, and the Usos actually, I think, in the match itself were like, what's this? Why are we taking this seriously? And as the audience,
it went a little too far.
Actually, why are we taking this seriously? It could have been nice if they just dropped it and actually let two really, really talented performers perform, and they didn't.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, it goes back to NXT again. Like, Tyler Breeze was super good in the ring. I was never a fan of his entrance as it was, but I mean, it fit the persona he had. But it's just, it's happened with, unfortunately, a lot of NXT wrestlers that when they've got up to the main stage, I'm not sure if it's the bigger crowd or just coming in and working from the base level again. It just doesn't seem to help.
The major hitters that's happened to that is, of course, Tyler Breeze, and I think that the other one is Apollo Crews.
Yes, and the Ascension.
And the Ascension, yeah, which is evident.
NXT guys who they don't know how to book. Okay, so the Ascension, Tyler Breeze, Apollo Crews. Who else has come up? Shinsuke. They don't know how to book.
Emma.
Yeah. Not really. All Emma wanted to be was quote unquote hot ass evil Emma.
I don't know why she went from this amazing song to this really crappy song right now. I mean, it's something when we talk about Raw, I imagine, and we'll just go off on one about the Raw pay-per-view and everything else. But my God, I don't know what they're doing with Emma over there right now. But it's a sign of the times, unfortunately. And I've got this really bad feeling that they're going to push Asuka really hard on Raw. And then against everyone else like Nia Jax, it's just going to bomb again. There's only one way they can really take Asuka. And I don't think it's going to go down very well in terms of that side.
Anyway, let's move on to the next match. It's the WWE Championship match with Jinder Mahal versus
Ziggler and Rude first, my friend.
Before we get to that, even though, before we get to that, can we talk briefly about the KFC advert?
Oh, with Kurt Angle.
With Kurt Angle.
Kurt
Angle and
Where's
WWE and KFC are very much obviously in bed at the minute because we have these series of adverts. I find it was funny actually because you remember why we had Shawn Michaels as the Colonel at one point. The reason we had Shawn Michaels as the Colonel was because Ric Flair being ill. We would have had Ric Flair as the Colonel, which I would like to see. In this advert, we had Kurt Angle introducing stuff because the Colonel is a playable character in WWE 2017. For reasons I don't know, KFC is also an achievement in the game. As is Snickers, because just note to me editing, just have it rain money at this point. But
as a side note, KFC and Snickers, if you want to sponsor this, we'll take your money and your food.
Absolutely.
Well, those two will. I won't.
I mean, yeah, sure.
How about you sponsor us with money, and then I'll just go, it's a fantastic branding idea. But what we had instead was, of all the people who came out as the Colonel after Kurt Angle introduced the Colonel, we had Kurt Angle as the Colonel. So Kurt Angle and Kurt Angle and Kurt Angle. And I can confirm to you all that Kurt Angle, number 1 and number 2, neither of them can act to save their life.
Which is really... I know what you're going to say, John. It was... I forget his name as well. Who was playing the Popper's chicken.
Yeah. It was Heath Slater.
Heath Slater, thank you. I think Heath Slater did do better. It's just weird that you say Kurt Angle can't act because we've seen him do comedy stylings before.
But if he's reading a script, he's so wooden.
Yeah.
I mean, don't
Well,
let
have
any
you seen
naked
his
flames
movies?
near him. He'll catch light. It's so.
Mate,
it's so
Pro
it's
Wrestlers
so
versus
bad.
Zombies was the worst thing ever.
But besides,
I am
he's done
KFC
more than just that.
supporting
And
man.
yes, his acting is just as bad in other movies he's done as well. And I've seen some scenes.
What
I mean, this
a
is the
terrible
problem.
Predicament.
I mean, this is one of the things that has become really terrible with the way that WWE has become in general in the last 10, 15 years, is the larger writers means that people can't be themselves. And I mean, it was the blessing and the curse of Raw Talk and Talking Smack, where they could do their own promos, but because they were able to do things, they weren't staying in character for such things, but they were being better, and they were being doing so much more for their character by doing these things. And again, the blessing because they could do that, curse because it was better than what they were being given by the writers, and the writers didn't like that.
No, Vince didn't like that.
Well, Vince didn't like it, and the writers didn't like it.
It wasn't his. So it had
But
to
that,
be
I
taken
mean,
away.
you could probably say that that's the same problem with why NXT isn't getting respected. It's not his, even though he owns it.
He didn't create any of it.
But anyway,
What? You said that the next match was a championship match.
Yes, it was.
Ziggler and Rude after that?
Nope.
Really?
yeah, Ziggler Rude was the filler before the main event.
Cool. Well, before we go into that, I have a little tidbit here that Jinder Mahal has now held the WWE title longer than Roman Reigns, Ric Flair, and Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
How bad is that?
Apparently he's under 100 days away from either Undertaker's longest reign or Undertaker's combined.
It's
why is this happening?
Yeah, yeah. I can also say that this match, the build-up, I was absolutely appalled by it.
There were certain remarks that were made on SmackDown that I think were taken a bit too far. Yes.
Yes. I love Shinsuke Nakamura. He's an awesome character. He's probably the most charismatic character that they have on the main roster right now, and they can't jack with him. And they have him with this feud with Jinder Mahal, where Jinder Mahal is making fun of the foreigner. And that really gets at me because we have seen it goddamn too many times, and it shouldn't have been the build-up for this thing. It should have been Shinsuke Nakamura is a threat. Jinder Mahal needs to have the Singh brothers there as much as possible to make sure he doesn't lose the title, and chaos ensue. That would have been a much better way of building this up. But nope, they had to go with Jinder Mahal trying to be funny.
I imagine the only reason that this wasn't a Hell in a Cell match specifically is because of all the gimmick matches that Jinder's been in recently, and he doesn't need to be in another. I think that's the only reason that
well,
there's a Hell in a Cell match on
recently.
Yeah,
would just not work. No.
I wasn't thinking that this match was Hell in a Cell worthy, because granted, for this year's Hell in a Cell, it was only 2 Hell in a Cell matches. Most Hell in a Cell pay-per-views have been 3, if not pushing it to 4, and it would be overblown. So I'm good that it was only just the 2 this year, and I didn't really think that this match needed to be in the cell, but I just wanted the build to be more kind of like more intense for the champion, because this is the champion who's going into this match, and it didn't really have it for SummerSlam either, because Shinsuke Nakamura has beaten John Cena, Randy Orton, 4 #1 contendership title matches against Jinder, and yet Jinder Mahal couldn't see that as a threat for some reason. He just wanted, especially for this build-up for Hell in a Cell, he just saw him as a joke.
I think the big problem with how Jinder's title run has gone in and stayed it is that Jinder's essentially left, done the massive bodywork, come back, has been respected for it. They wanted to put him in as the champion, mostly because they wanted to break through into India for it. Everybody knows that, and as such, he's not respected as the champion for who he is, especially as he was, the 50th WWE champion,
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
So he was a landmark champion who was given it pretty much as a promotion, essentially, and has kept it via numerous challenges who should have been a massive threat, as you've said, John, hasn't respected that threat for what it is. And I don't think the fans are behind Jinder for that whole reason. Like, I think to a lot of the fans, it feels like Jinder hasn't earned the belt. He's got the look of the champion. He's getting better on the mic. His ring work's not brilliant, unfortunately. I think he has the marks to be a great champion.
Which is evident by the match that I have the notes here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He has the chances. He has the makings to be a champion, but I think he should have been a one and done, maybe to somebody else like they did with Bray. Like, give the title to him, see how he does. If it's not gone over that well, take it off him, let him chase the title. In that time, people generally get better when they're chasing a title as a mega heel for what Jinder's trying to be, rather than keeping the belt and doing dastardly ways to stay out of it. It's easier to see mega heels do dastardly ways to get in rather than like out, as it were.
Also, they didn't really do anything significant in the build up to him winning the title. There wasn't enough build to signify that this man is a threat. They did not do enough to take away from the fact that, hey, previously this guy's like one bugger all, and prove that it's a threat. Even whilst they've sort of trying to make the Colossus?
Colossus, yeah.
The Colossus. His finish, to make his finisher look strong, still not really managed to do that. Even by, knocking off big names of it, and there's not been a hint of a kick out, even half a kick out, after the pin or what have you.
They're trying to make the Colossus this big match ender.
Yeah, this big power match ender is like, oh, devastating, and oh, it's not. They didn't do enough in establishing, why Jinder is this threat. Apart from whoa, power and muscle. Look at they're literally the entire build is look at him.
Yeah.
Well,
yes, then look at him in the ring. Doesn't translate.
I'm sure the commentators on house shows have specifically said he's got the build of a champion, and the look of a champion. It's just having the style of a champion. What do you want to say, John?
The only thing that I really like about Jinder Mahal in terms of his presentation actually is his entrance, which I really like.
I like it. I like it.
Because you got
the burning
sings.
of the fire, revealing stuff that's really cool. That's really cool. But everything else that comes with it.
I will tell you this much tonight. I think he was wanting to be, part of the. Oh, what was that TV show back in the day when it was like stars in their eyes? Mm-hmm. It's like tonight, Matthew. I'm going to be Blue Tista with his jocks that night. My God, it's like the blue does not work for his character. It's like.
I've just turned over to my notes for this match, and my first note is actually about Shinsuke's entrance, because it's a longer trip now. His music doesn't match up with his.
No, that's kind of.
So when he's supposed to do the layback or he used to do in NXT, he doesn't do that anymore because the timings never match, and they need to change that somehow. But my first note here for the actual match is 139 days. How the actual fuck? Because they specifically, he's been champion for 139 days, and I legitimately just looked at the calendar like, really?
Yeah, I know. It's been over 3 months.
How have we suffered this long?
I know, it's ridiculous.
I think it's because no one's really paying attention to the championship, the WWE Championship scene right now.
Which is a shame, because that's your main title.
It
for
should
your
be.
brand.
Yes, I mean it should be the main title overall. But I think the problem is because Jinder doesn't the belt isn't carried by it's feasibly a paper champion until he manages to have single matches with no interference and starts getting proper clean wins, I don't think anybody's going to respect Jinder.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I think the only way he's going to do that is, as I said, by chasing the title.
I mean, there was some interesting moments. Was there anything in your notes, John, that was really?
I really liked Shinsuke Nakamura's performance. The knee strikes that he had on Jinder were absolutely beautiful. He was really into it, like not to the level of what he has done in New Japan. Trust me, we will never see that unless it's really gotta be with someone that he can trust to really deliver those strikes and go full on strong style. But on that match, he was actually doing well with knee strikes and punches and whatnot. And I don't think he really did much in the way of throws though. But no, overall performance was actually good.
Pete, was there anything that really stood out for you in that match?
I think John's pretty much hit it on his head. I think this was all mostly about Shinsuke letting out like the verbal misgivings in the recent house shows on Smackdown, and it was mostly about making Shinsuke look good and pushing Jinder to the limit, as it were, to show that Shinsuke could fight him off.
Yeah, but of course it would just eventually just lead to that of the Singh brothers fearing
numbers game again,
and the very belated long ejection from the referee.
I did like how they were ejected, tried to run back in to cause interference, and the ref was like, get the fuck out.
That's actually the problem. Well, there was actually a slight problem with that, because as a result, the biggest pop of the match went to Charles Robinson, and Charles Robinson as the referee should not be getting the biggest pop in your match.
But it's Lil Nate.
I know it's Lil Nate. I love Little Nate. Good luck to him. He's like 16 years in the company now, or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, he's been there since the invasion. So
he's one of the constant. I think Kyoto's like 20 years on everybody.
Oh yeah,
stupid. He's like one of the most senior. He's like the most senior.
Super senior.
Ever had. He's about 15 years on whatever it was that the Hetners had as well. So. Always like to see Kyoto, and always like to see Robertson, but he shouldn't get the biggest pop. I was just like, no, please don't.
I mean, I think that's just down to how lively the crowd was. You can always tell when it's going to be a lively crowd when they do the one fall chant back out, because they've been trying to get back in. They've been trying to pull this in from the indie scene quite a lot recently.
Yeah.
Of getting the crowd more involved in doing the chant, because it always goes over in indie crowds where they're smaller and everything else. And
well, apparently, what was it I've seen on Twitter? I don't know who I follow who's been actually very vocally annoyed by that.
It's not me, is it?
No, is it you? Are you annoyed by the one fall chant?
That does annoy me, but only because it's so transparently WWE stealing something.
Oh yeah,
it's better than the crowd going, "This is awesome," when the match isn't even 2 minutes in.
Or you still got it to people who are still.
You deserve it.
You've stepped in the ring. You've still got it.
Yeah. So
you have legs.
It's not as pretentious and as stupid as those chants, but because I love the one fold chant, because it's like we are Vince McMahon filling up the dead air, where he didn't like the dead air in Seth Rollins' entrance music, so he wanted to fill in that. So we're just basically filling up that brief pause period that Chibble has, and just throw it in there.
He's got a t-shirt out of it.
Again, I don't mind it. It does show how lively a crowd is these days, and you can judge it on the house shows as well. If they're not that loud when they do it, you generally find the crowd is going to be pretty dead for the show itself.
Also, you were talking about dead air. A lot of that dead air was because they muted the crowd because they were booing Roman Reigns.
As we lose Kev's audio as he says dead air.
Really?
It won't be like that on the video, but for us, it was like...
The irony was, what I said there was the reason we had dead air was because they muted the crowd because they were booing Roman Reigns. Now, is Vince in control of Discord?
Apparently so.
Is Kevin Dunn editing this video?
Well, we need to talk about later on. Well, actually, in the last match.
Speaking of things you can't edit, though, God bless Reigns for not Reigns, Graves. We've got Reigns on the brain. God, Vince's thing's working. God bless Graves for covering for that really botched roll up that happened midway through that. That was just ugly, and Graves covered for it like an absolute champ.
I mean, Graves is quite frankly one of the best commentators in the business right now.
Absolutely, he's
and he's doing double duty as well. It's amazing that
he's doing all the things at the moment.
Yeah. But yeah, was that all your notes?
No, one other thing I really liked, and it was from Jinder. When there was sort of like a bit of I can't remember what movie he was doing. It was a hold or some sort of sleeper or something. Something that had Shinsuke locked up, and Shinsuke went for the ropes, and Jinder used his size and used his reach, and with his right leg leant out and basically stepped
off the ropes.
On the middle rope, and and then
I remember that,
pushed them back into the center of the ring, and it was such a great little piece of ring awareness and working into his strengths that it stood out really well. The other thing was we went from the biggest pop from Charles Robertson to the actual pinfall, and you said about how hot, how into it the crowd was. They were into it right up to the pinfall, because the crowd literally the crowd literally went 1, 2, 3. You could hear it.
Yeah, the absolute
this collective. Like, wait, this like, ends the match, and it's like, oh god, we've still got to live with this.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is going to go into where do they go next? Do they keep Shinsuke charging for it? I don't think they can. I think they've really burnt themselves on this current storyline. I don't think they can effectively have Shinsuke. Maybe, again, this is why they had the talk. AJ Styles directed the way he wanted to on Talking Smack, and we might see AJ go for it. I think it's about time they take the belt off Jinder. Not so much that he'll beat Undertaker's title or whatever.
Well,
more to the point that they go for a champion that, will push SmackDown to be what it was again.
Well, the problem just now is that they're keeping the title on Jinder because they're putting him onto the tour in India, in Dubai as well. So it's
how long is the tour?
I think it's like a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing.
It's basically the rest of the year.
This is the thing. On Twitter, the night of Hell in the Cell Sunday, Lewis at Sonic Yoda turned around and tweeted just like, because he was making fun of the whole promotional tweet about making somebody they stretched the image, and I was just like, cool. So that means that Jinder's still keeping the belt after Hell in a Cell tonight. Then and he went, oh,
yeah. A lot of people were like that when they saw that tweet.
Yeah, it's like, thanks for spoiling your main event pay-per-view.
Social media, everybody, it ruins pay-per-views.
Thanks, WWE. Thank you.
But yeah, I also want to note that match was actually shorter than prior. It's like
it did feel like a very short match. Yeah,
it was the women's match was 12:15, the WWE Championship 12:10, and I was like, wow, that. very short.
To be fair, though, it felt as long as it needed to be. I think if that match was going to go on any longer, then it would have bored the piss out of everybody. To be completely frank, more so than it already did. I got no problems with it. It was a serviceable match again. It just depends where they go from here. I don't really need to see Jinder Shinsuke 3, unless they're gonna stick Jinder in a multi-man title defense. Then yeah, I'll see Shinsuke and I'll see AJ Styles and I'll see whoever.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely.
After that, we had KO with awesome.
Yeah, with promo of the night. Actually,
Yeah.
That was. I really liked how Kevin Owens actually called out all the commentators for what they normally say about Hell in a Cell. I actually laughed.
And I that's why I love Kevin Owens. That's why I've loved Kevin since day one.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is the man in talk. Even though he doesn't talk straight, like every other person tends to do on their promos, is like they just read the line and just talk it straight. Kevin Owens has the ability to kind of like fluctuate his kind of like voice.
He takes bullet points.
Yeah.
Like he's one of the people that goes, so I need, like, Kevin Owens strikes me as the guy who gets given a script and he goes, what are the main points of this? And then he'll get bullet points. And as long as he hits those bullet points, he'll do whatever he wants. Yeah.
And he actually talks real as well, because he is a family man. He is doing this for his family. He's doing this on all that. And everything of that is true. But yet, he's such an evil bastard at times. Like, how he wants to, you know, do this to this person and whatnot, especially to Shane, which we'll get into.
Kevin Owens strikes me the same as The Miz does, where he will always be the perennial heel. We'll never see The Miz have another face turn. We won't ever see Kevin Owens have a face run. He'll be closer to possibly a tweener. That we've been seeing coming out of these things more recently, where he'll be, because he essentially is the perennial tweener. He's so over with the fans, but he's a dastardly heel. Like, essentially, that's what he is. Like, we're not talking Roman Reigns level of tweener or John Cena level of tweener, where they don't care what the crowd says and they have the crowd going 50-50. We're talking what the character is. It's like, essentially, if we follow what the crowd is, Roman Reigns is a heel.
It's interesting that you mentioned The Miz, because I agree in that they are the heels, but they are sort of going to be like forever heels. But the reason why is you hate them because they're right. That's you don't hate them because they're despicable, although they are despicable. You hate them because they're actually right.
And they have a point.
The best heels are the heels who believe that they're right. For The Miz and for KO, they don't just believe they're right; they are right a lot of the time. And that's what you dislike about them, is that they've made their point, and you know what? It sticks in your craw because you know what? They've actually got a point about that.
Yeah, I also loved. I also loved a video package, and Kevin Owens shared this on his Twitter of WWE Media putting up a video of him the day off Hell in a Cell prior, and him just talking about it. And then he talks about, it's like, teaching my kids a lesson. It's like, you need to fight off your bullies and whatnot, and this is how you do it and whatnot. And he's making it sound like that, he is right on doing that, and it's awesome. And you know, it's like, we don't have that many kind of like heels that are like that, other than himself and Miz. So yeah, you can't. Yeah, no,
I think you hit all the points there, really, about why they are so good at their job. It's just doing, like, and it's why the Cena Reigns promos kind of worked recently, because they were more heelish in nature, because they were just taking all the smarky comments that people say about them and just putting them in a promo. But the big difference is, and you see it a lot more when Miz is allowed off the chain, is that they get very real with their promos, and they just put it down to brass tacks. And I think like you said, Kev, that's why they get over so well, because they just place it down and just lay it down the way they do. But it was a very good promo.
Yeah,
absolutely. Definitely. Going into another piss break match, essentially.
Yeah, Bobby Roode. Well, it was like, or Bobby Roode.
It was a match where everybody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah,
because
versus Dolph Ziggler. I mean, granted, what was it? I knew for a fact how Ziggler was going to come in the match, or like, come down.
I was hoping for what was similar to the old. I think it was the WrestleMania 2 entrances where they came down on the mini rings.
You were being way too ambitious, because after everything that Dolph was doing on the lead up to this match, I knew that it was gonna be something. It was either gonna be one of two things: either he comes out normally, or he comes out to silence.
So
it was the latter.
I love that you went. I was hoping for WrestleMania 3. I was hoping WrestleMania 3. I got a recycled R-Truth entrance. That's wow. That's what you got.
But I think somebody on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, when that entrance happened, was like, Dolph Ziggler's entrance is how everybody feels after the Jinder Shinsuke match. Just blank silence. Yeah.
Also, we had a record scratch because.
Oh yeah.
That was so bad. That was so bad.
That was just like that was the height of cheese.
Yeah.
Again, that's probably Vince. We got a record scratch.
Yes, I like. People use those CDs, right? They scratch on it. Let's scratch that CD. I saw it in a Batman movie.
Or are you still on those fancy new mini discs?
But the big problem with this match, like the story going into it has felt rushed, because Rude's only come into it in, I believe, one, two house shows, going, "Rah, I'll show you what this is really like." But the fact is that we know that this has been built up to be a Rude win from the start.
Yeah,
Ziggler wants out of his contract, and he's staying around to help build the younger generation up, and. Essentially, we knew that they wanted to build Rude up to be. I think they're trying to build Rude up to be a main star contender quickly, and to beat somebody that's been bragging about their in-ring skills for 4 to 5 weeks on house shows is. I mean, it's annoying, because Ziggler has literally, like, I think they even mentioned it in the commentary that a year previous, Ziggler was fighting for his job essentially versus The Miz in what was. Again, a match of the night on that card, and then he's into what he is, and he's just not happy, and he wants to leave. So,
I missed that. I missed that he wanted out of his contract. Actually, that's new.
Yeah. I mean, he's wanted out of his contract for a while, but they've convinced him to hang around and just like finish off the contract by helping like some of the newer stars that have come up from NXT, and
they're doing a fantastic job of convincing him to stay. And B, making him enjoy that period of time while he's working. Fantastic time, fantastic chance of that.
But in the match itself, I mean, granted, there wasn't really much to it, though. That was the problem.
Again, as I said, it felt like a piss break match, especially with what we know we were leading into.
Also, I put this other note. Dolph Ziggler's ponytail. What the hell?
I thought his hair was looking marvelous that evening.
I don't know about that ponytail though.
It was a serviceable match, but just like some of the other matches on the card that have been in between, there was just nothing memorable about it.
Yeah, the only memorable things is obviously outside of the match. I've got here crowd with CM Punk chant. Guys, it's 2017. Come on now, it's getting really ridiculous.
I think
I love a protest chant.
Yeah, it's a protest chant, and I'm really getting sick and tired of those.
It's a protest chant, and it's something we only really hear with the, as I said, the vocal crowds. And
when it comes to a match is boring, and it was getting boring at that point because there was a lot of rest holds in that. Well, it was like there was a lot of rest holds to that match. Even at one point, obviously Ziggler was shouting "Ask him," and or what.
You just misheard. He was promoting Asuka.
What wasn't this match the one with the sleeper hold that lasted like half the match?
Yeah.
It was this one, wasn't
I
it?
think they got down.
Yeah.
It was booked really weirdly. I thought the match because it started off with a whole thing about controlling the head with headlocks, and it was like headlocks into sleeper, and then sleeper into more headlocks, and the entire first half of the match was just like, okay, well, who's got control of the head right now? I don't know, but you're basically starting the match off with rest holds and going into other rest holds to go back into rest holds, and this is just like, okay, well, how does this How does this work into your psychology of the match?
It's trying to have a wrestling match when at heart they're more, I don't want to say brawlers, but like Ziggler is definitely more of a striker with how he works. He's not a grappler.
Yeah, he does, because all of his kind of like moves that are head related, but they're fast paced, kind of like kind of
like the
zigzag,
the semi sling blade, the famous etc.
DDT.
Yeah, Ziggler is a fast-paced striker,
and
not
of course
not a grappler. And I didn't understand the psychology of this match.
Well, of course, ironic because for a time they were trying to promote him as this fantastic. They remember they were doing about whole like the university or the college stuff, and it was like, oh, he's this champion of wrestling from so and so and so and so. He's got this amateur background. They're really pushing that like 6 months ago. So that's really weird. You going back to that period of time, John. You said about how the ponytail was cheap heat. Well, he
is a heel after all. He is a heel.
Jericho in 1999 with the top knot.
Yeah.
But the thing that was really with during that entire sequence of when he was like on the mat, Ziggler's face. I don't know what he was doing, but he was just making weird faces. He was like, he was like trying to dislocate his own jaw, trying to just go. He was around the crowd, just like.
Was he trying to reenact Mick Foley having a tooth up his nose?
Wow.
I don't know. I think he was trying. I think he was trying to just be a snake that was trying to dislocate his own jaw, so he could perhaps eat Bobby Roode.
So he was becoming Freddy Krueger. Tis the season.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that.
I don't know.
I'm very glad they've redone Roode's Titantron when the entrance, because I never liked that text, so they've redone that. That's really nice.
Yeah, no, the text has definitely been better.
There was some miscommunication in that match. Bobby Roode did not take the DDT, the high DDT, in the right way at all. And they completely botched the famous entirely. It basically became an elevated shove down the neck bulldog.
Yeah. I think I have that on my notes.
That was weird. And then we moved after what seemed like forever, as everyone bought t-shirts and went for a piss, as you say. We went for that roll-up sequence at the end. Otherwise known as I'm winning at the moment, so I'm now going to pull the guy up.
It was a full tumble.
It was,
the pull of the tights. What was the? Why did you
pull the guy? Oh no! I pulled the guy up from
over
him being pinned into. I pinned myself, and not. And then it's like, oh, that looks like fun. I'll do that as well. It was just like pulling each other over and pulling themselves out of winning situations. So it was.
It was weird.
It should have been Doink and Doink Bra
that
match with that last segment.
But
but after that last one, it was immediate. Ziggler just attacking after the match.
Yeah.
Typical kind of.
So which means that we're probably going to see a follow up to that storyline.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
must continue.
Well, hopefully with 4 weeks of actual story and build up, they might be able to make it into something that's a little bit more serviceable next time. And
Maybe.
like less of a. I think they knew both going in when they knew they're going to be between the championship match and Hell in a Cell,
the main
event that they knew they were going to have to just do a quick match, and they want to make something better because they're both really good workers, and we know they can put on a good match. So you start at the bottom and look to go forward, I guess.
Plus, what was it? A lot of people. Again, this is just people. Certain people's reactions that having Bobby Roode as a face in this situation at the moment is not helping.
You know, the character
because...
who's basically is arrogance.
Yeah,
he's straight and he's like, you're a face. It's like, I am this wonderful thing of nature.
Yeah, but he's clearly a face to come in because he's got the cheap pop right now.
Well, at the moment, he's got the entrance. The entrance is what's getting him over mostly.
Well, he's also got every moment in the ring where there's downtime where he can pop the crowd whenever he chooses.
Yeah,
because it's very easy to do so with the way he does it. But yes, it leads us into the main event, which was a hell of a lot longer than everybody thought it was going to be.
Oh boy! For both it was good and worse.
Yeah,
there was, you know, but I'll definitely say second best match of. I'll say that much.
Yeah, but
like, compared to the tag match that was earlier.
Considering some of the other matches on the card and how much we've talked about them, it's not hard to see why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quite funny when everybody was like, well, they've only got 10 minutes. How this is going to be a very short Hell in a Cell. And then everybody looked at what time Talking Smack was on and they were like, oh, this actually goes on till 1:30. And so, yes, we go into Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon in Hell in a Cell. Falls count anyway.
Yeah, I must admit, I having watched this, I'm pretty certain it wasn't Hell in a Cell. I'm actually convinced they just showed some video footage from SmackDown versus Raw from 2007. Because it was basically a Hell in a Cell directly from that.
Yes. The stuff inside the cell was good. But the problem being when you go Hell in a Cell, 4 counts anywhere, you immediately know shenanigans are afoot. Like, for whatever reason, you know shenanigans are going to be afoot in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Yeah. Whether they go out the back or whether something happens at ringside, or, you know, they go on a grand tour of the brand new arena, which wouldn't surprise me since they were billing it all night as the brand new arena. I was like, oh, really? Okay, here we go. Grand tour, shall we? It was good. Shane still can't throw punches, but he
likes his potatoes.
Yes, he does like his potatoes, but it did seem like he was trying to less wrestle and make it more MMA based.
Yeah, well, that was what the promo had him in for his training was. He was in like an MMA.
Well, every promo of Shane going into a big match is him doing MMA training.
Yeah,
because that's what he does. It was good. The stuff the actual holds Shane was throwing out was good. Kevin is always a very good seller.
Yeah,
what he does.
I've got plenty of notes talking about how awesome Kevin Owens was during the match. Here, just a few examples. His frog splash, going on to Shane McMahon, that was awesome. Then going for the pop-up powerbomb, Shane countered it with a triangle hold.
That was amazing.
That was
really
really
good.
Nice.
Really good spot that was. The powerbomb on the steel steps
was good. Off the other triangle choke. Yep.
The Kevin Owens kind of like taunting of Shane's kids. By the way, Shane's kids send for the man because one of them were corpsey like heck.
Whatever.
It's like, whatever, I'm on TV.
I'm gonna murder your dad.
It's like, that's funny.
Insert the Vince McMahon.
Dead.
Yeah.
One of the funnier moments I remember from the match is when Kevin went for the cannonball off the ring apron, landed on the table.
That was a good one.
Then the bit of the table that was going to land, he just flips it off him. It's just like, go away.
I also loved Shane taking that half of the
table and beating him with it.
That was really good. That was great.
I don't know if that table was specifically gimmicked, but that split so perfectly.
Oh yeah, it was so perfectly that it was good that Shane was able to use it as a weapon.
It really benefited.
Yeah.
It became
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
But again, this leads to like it's another really good Hell in a Cell match with some really good memorable spots. Although when they actually got to the outside, which were those bolt cutters there all along?
Well, yeah, well they were under the ring. Yeah, anything could be under the ring. But I was gonna say, it was good that Shane McMahon initiated the match first.
Yes.
At the start and brawled out of the cell first and then back in. You know, it really showed the kind of like blood feud that Shane had on Kevin Owens.
Yes.
And how much he wanted to, really teach Kevin Owens a lesson by jumping the gun first.
All I'm saying is that if there are bolt cutters under the ring, I would not go and open the fucking cell with a pair of bolt cutters when I'm playing in Hell in a Cell.
Well, I'll say that Shane definitely had a nightmare trying to get that chain cut.
Mark Henry was pointing at a TV and going, see, I told you, it's not as easy as it looked. No, he was like 1, didn't work, 2, didn't work, 3, didn't work, 4.
It was like 30 seconds, but it felt like 2 minutes.
Just going, for God's sake, hopefully gets through this lock.
Yeah.
It was more relief. It was like,
yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like when Kevin was on top of the cell and Shane was like on the table, the whole Kevin. I'm not sure if Kevin was meant to do a spot or if it was all meant to be delayed.
Oh, before we get to that bit, I want to point out the big botch or the big mistake that was done here. Shane McMahon does a coast to coast inside the ring.
Yes.
Whatnot. He goes for the pin. 1, 2. Kevin has his foot on the rope. Why the bloody hell is there a rope break in a Hell in a Cell falls count anywhere match?
As far as I'm aware, like I know that the commentary actually called it out.
Yeah.
That it was clearly
Corey Graves called that out.
But to the best of my ability, like as far as I'm aware, it's just a no disqualification match. Like rope breaks.
Yeah. So why is there rope breaks?
Yeah, but rope break is like something completely different in terms of a no disqualification.
It's weird because it's when it is specifically it's no disqualification. Then the rope breaks. Then there are no rope breaks.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when it is a match which is no disqualification.
Yeah.
Which is it goes with like a triple threat is no disqualification.
But we've seen
still a thing.
We've seen this before in other things where someone gets tied up in a rope. And obviously they'll go at them. They'll have a submission hold, and they'll hit the rope to try and break it. But obviously there's no rope breaks. I understand that idea in terms of a no disqualification match. In terms of a pinfall, though, it's people don't completely understand. Who was the ref for that match?
Kyoda.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there you go.
But in terms of like. It felt like a rope break should be natural. So obviously the fact that Kevin's done it means that it was a spot, and Kyoda was told to do that. Specifically,
I just questioned it. That's
I think everybody questioned it.
Yeah. But no, back to the action on top of the cell.
Like the whole stuff when Kevin's up there for the first time.
Yeah.
And like. Decided to jump off. It feels like he was going to, but like they changed their mind because it's just the way it works. Like
I would agree on that because I felt as though Kevin would have wanted to try to jump off the cell, but management was like, "No, we can't let you do that. We're gonna let you fall from half the height, but we're not gonna let you jump. We're not gonna let you jump it. We'll give it to Shane." Because Shane, he's not a full-time wrestler. He could take the injury and...
My only argument was that if he was definitely not going to jump off the cell, then the time it should have taken for Shane to get up there should have been at least half of what it was.
That's true. It was. There was a lot of spots that, or a lot of time, because this was like in total 39 minutes.
Yeah, it was about a 40-minute match. Yeah,
and there was a lot of moments where there was like a lot not happening, and waiting on things to happen, and most of them being on Shane's part, trying to act on either climbing the cell or reacting or getting up from a move or whatever.
It was just that I don't think the match was too long, but certain parts of the match were longer than they needed to be.
Yeah,
if you understand what I'm saying, like the time for Shane to get up off the table, up the stage while Kevin was still mucking around, that could have been half the time it was. The fight on the side of the cell before Kevin goes through it could have been, you know, a lot faster than it could have been. The amount of time they were on top of the cell, everybody was holding their breath. It was definitely very tense. I was definitely thinking, is someone actually going to go through the cell? But, you know, it could have been half of the time of what they were up there being. That's my only real complaint about the match, is certain things felt like they took more time than what they needed to.
Before we lead up to the end of this, Kevin, do you have any highlights of yourself?
Yes. I thought Shane busting out a Senshai kick.
Yes.
At the beginning was pretty amazing.
It was really funny.
That was a case of like, holy shit, he did that. Was like, it's like you see him do stuff again. It was like you see him do stuff in the build-ups and the promos when they've shown him in MMA situation getting the training, and you see him do it, but you've never seen him actually bust out something like that in a match. And I legitimately cannot remember a Senshai kick being used in a wrestling match before. Not the one that I've seen anyway. So that
I can't recall one myself.
That
honestly,
was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
I mean, at least not in mainstream wrestling. They might have done something indie-ish, I imagine.
I can imagine. Well, not to insinuate it's not mainstream, but I imagine it was probably busted out a few times in New Japan, and the like, and probably somebody does it on the indie circuit. There was really regularity, but never seen it on what we would.
I think it works as a. I think it works as a. We'll see it occasionally type thing.
That's pretty good. It's funny with Shane that with all this training and stuff, in the he can do real punches.
Yes.
After starting in this world of fantasy and make believe that we have, which is called wrestling, he started off with that, and he can't do work punches, but he can now do wonderful, proper work. And he still can't do the work punches. Again, what we said about the kids just not giving us stuff was very funny. Up on the cage, following through with what I said at the beginning about it being basically Smackdown versus Raw, Hell in a Cell. We had the the backdrop, which was AKA your Irish whip reversal move on top of the thing we had, which I did laugh at. One thing that really stuck out was the slow bowing of that cage.
Oh yeah, the
atmosphere in the arena getting increasingly, oh god,
worried.
Please get off of that section.
Yeah.
Oh god, please get off that section. And there was one moment where I think it was Graves. But one of them on the country, it got very obviously more frantic because you could see, and every time there was a big move, it's like, oh god. But I
think it was like the bottom right hand corner of the middle, closest to the hard cam, was the one that was going the most because they were doing.
That was really dipping by the.
That was the one they did the sit up powerbomb into as well, wasn't it? On that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the one that really stood out in my mind and with the commentary was when he went for the senton.
Yes.
And somebody yelled out, "Please no!" And it was very real at that point because it was on the bowing section.
It almost
full weight of Kevin Owens was going to drop on it.
It almost felt like the commentators knew the end. The commentators knew the beginning, but they didn't know everything and how long they were going to be at the top. And obviously, like you're saying, and we all noticed about the bowing, how everybody, I mentioned about everybody holding their breath while they were on top of it. there was a very real fear that somebody was going to go through the top, which is what it felt like. It felt like that was going to be a massive spot.
And actually looking at the cage, I mean,
yes,
that's
every
was
time
put together at the top there, and going and you look, you say, have they like reinforced? Because I was looking at that, and that there was a couple of times. There was a couple of times it looked like it was super reinforced in corners, because it actually felt like along the edge that it had, at the chain link had actually separated off the actual the actual join in the middle. There was it felt you looked at it first of all and you thought, okay, it almost looked like there was like a layer underneath the top layer, and then you looked again and actually no. So
the thing is that when they increased the height of that cage, you know that nobody's going to go through that thing.
Yeah.
That is,
it's also, you see it with the beams as well.
Yeah,
they're much thicker than previous iterations of the cell. So
Graves actually also played into this whole sort of anxiety thing, because he mentioned the word fatal about 4 times, which for WWE is probably not the best thing you should do.
No.
Especially at, what was it over there, like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I think it was?
No, I think it would have been coming close to 7.
It would have been even later than that, but
yeah,
you know, it's like people potentially from falling from a great height, and mentioning the word fatal is probably not.
Well, especially if someone of Shane's age as well. Like, he's very spry for the age he is, but someone of Shane's age, like, gonna fall through that thing at that height is very scary thought, at least.
But they did not, of course, and
thank God.
Owens went, yes, very much so. Well done, the engineers. Owens made to throw Shane off, and Shane basically put the brakes on. Did like
insecurity type kick thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did like a sort of a baseball slide, preventing downwards to prevent himself on, and then it was very clear desperation stakes move. That was pretty good.
Yeah,
and then we sort of moved into essentially the final sequence. So.
It was pretty good. Both tables essentially been going through. The end of the match was really, really good. I definitely wasn't expecting it, although I was expecting the interference from one Mr. Sami Zayn. But I do want to comment on when Shane actually landed through the table, and him actually bouncing when he landed was...
One thing I noticed between this, with this fall and the fall he did at WrestleMania against Undertaker, with the one in the Undertaker one, you definitely noticed the padding underneath the table, because you saw all that padding burst out when Shane hit that table. This time around, where was it?
No idea.
What the heck?
He
he literally bounced on that table. I don't know what that table is made of, but that landing would have bloody hurt.
I suspect it's sort of wood rubber.
It would have to be. It would have to be, because
it looked different. The table makeup looked different, especially when you saw the one Kevin Owens went through. Actually, it looked different on the makeup.
So
without any of the padding or the bags this time. Firstly, Shane McMahon, you're fucking crazy.
Well, he's 62.
No, he's
is he younger than that?
He's not older than the Undertaker.
Oh
well, he's close to the age of the Undertaker.
No, he's close, but he's definitely not older.
He's 47. There we go.
He's 40. Oh, geez, 47. Yeah, 47. He shouldn't be doing that. Not at 47.
Oh, Taker's 52. There we go.
No, 50. Taker's.
So he's got no excuse but to come back and chuck himself off the cell to tombstone somebody.
Tombstone through the cell. Doesn't matter, because the Undertaker will never die. So,
he's a dead man.
But yeah, I think we should move on to the twist. Although it wasn't pulled off, it wasn't executed very well.
No,
of Sami Zayn,
because everyone was obviously because everyone was focused on Shane and how he was kind of like falling down. We didn't see what happened down below. We just thought that Kevin Owens just moved on his own power.
Until you saw the replay.
Which technically he did, because when they kept on showing that replay,
you could see that Kevin was
getting
moving,
up first, and then Sammy was there getting it. And I don't know how long Sammy was there for.
So essentially about I think it was about 15 seconds before Shane jumped, there's actual footage from like the rafters of Sammy moving into position with the hood on.
Yeah.
And then just slowly and then taking it off like just when Shane's about 5 seconds before Shane's about to jump.
Yeah.
And then like pulling
yeah, pulling
Kev out the way. They've obviously showed it so many times that it's like the whole Enzo Amore nearly snapping his neck on that bloody rope situation. They've shown that thing so many times. The biggest thing I want to argue about this is that everybody's calling it Sammy's heel turn, and everybody's saying that Sammy had this look on his face that was like showed that he'd snapped or like his mind was going through. It really didn't look like that at all. It looked like he was saving a friend more than a heel turn.
It was a very conflicted Sami Zayn.
Yes, it was a very conflicted look. It was just like, especially when he made the choice of like to push or the MTs out of the way to put Kevin on top so Kevin could get the pinball. That was the heelish move.
Yeah.
Like pulling Kev out the way was more of a I'm going to save my best friend thing.
Yeah, even though we've had our rivalries and problems and whatnot, we still grew up in this industry together.
Exactly, and
you know,
as
friends.
Like we've mentioned earlier, with certain big heels in NXT and that being faces currently,
it's essentially
Sami Zayn is not going to work as a heel. I don't think.
Well, it's essentially the motto: keep your enemies close, keep your friends close, and your enemies closer.
Yeah.
Motto here with Sami Zayn and him, Kevin Owens. I think that's what we're kind of supposed to kind of like take out of this.
I mean, a lot of people are like either torn between a heel turn because apparently Kevin Owens is meant to be going back to Raw. I haven't seen Raw this week yet because he's been advertised for a couple of Raw shows. But a couple of people have been saying, "Oh, it's Kevin Steen and El Generico again. We get to see this." And I'm like. Yeah, well, yeah. A lot of people are unaware of Kevin Owens' indie stuff won't understand, but
no. I meant like for the Elgin, but
hey,
I have the DVD. I have the Kevin Owens story. I know.
He cosplayed as Kevin Owens.
It's going to be weird to see how they take this story, and I'm sure we'll see after SmackDown where this is going because it's going to be the big story leading into it. So we'll see what happens, no doubt.
I thought it was interesting that the initial thing is yes, he's done the jump, but it's funny that it turned away from the Shane McMahon Falls Off Things 2017 edition to why Sammy why. But it takes a lot to, at least partly upstage somebody jumping off a cage just by...
I mean, it was a good match overall. To upstage the entire match with just that is a feat on itself.
It's impressive. And the only reason that happened was because for the entirety of his run, and a lot of people have always sort of thought that, okay, Sammy is this character. It's very difficult to paint a guy who does... is the type of guy he is, and hey, he does all this charity stuff at his own time that to help people.
The perennial face.
Yeah, he is. A lot of people were saying how he would be this sort of maybe like Generation Steamboat character in this perennial.
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult to dislike Sami Zayn as a.
It's very hard.
As a character, I reckon he could actually still say face after all this. Simply because he could very well justify his position. Him putting Owens on top of Shane he could easily say was more of a case of just making sure the match was ended so that nothing would be hurt anymore. He didn't want his friend didn't want his friend hurt.
His friend or his boss,
whatever.
But then the argument against that is the EMTs would have just ended the match anyway. They've done it before where competitor X is no longer able to continue, and the match has been awarded.
But then he could still say that because he was trying to stop when we had it with the promo, he was trying to stop Kevin Owens from doing something that he would regret. Either way,
I think the way this is going to get played out is very much like Sammy's going to be very much in the middle until something happens to continue Kevin Owens versus whatever. A big thing coming up for this is that Shane's meant to be off TV for a while, and Triple H is going to replace him. We're going to see the WrestleMania match of Kevin Owens versus Triple H, which will be an interesting match. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's just weird how that's all come about. The other thing actually that this whole situation affects is, ironically, the stuff in the pre-show, because we were saying about what's going to happen with the Hype Bros and whether or not they think they're going to be a heel turn. The answer is no, not yet, definitely, because they're not going to have like two question mark heel turns on the same SmackDown. So,
well, potentially
give
three.
a bit of a gap,
yes.
Before that's dealt with, because we've got to deal with the Sami Zayn stuff and Kevin Owens stuff first.
Well, that is obviously, after this main event, whatnot, that is the talking point going into tonight's SmackDown.
Yeah.
So that will be probably addressed right at the start of the show. Yeah. So,
but otherwise, enjoyable match.
I thought it was a very enjoyable match.
I have misgivings about it with the. I am conflicted myself on whether or not it actually damages. It's actually damaged Hell in a Cell itself as a concept.
The problem is that the minute they started doing pay-per-views with the names around particular matches and throwing more of that one match type from a very rare occasional match into 2, 3, 4 in one night, it became overdrawn.
Yeah.
Like Hell in a Cell 10, 15 years ago was that occasional rare match that they would do as like the big blowout, which we saw in like 2000 with Armageddon Hell in a Cell, to like the feud ender like we saw with Triple H and Cactus Jack. It's like it used to be that once a year thing, and now essentially, you know, with the amount of gimmick matches they have, it draws out, and we see things that are similar, like the Punjabi Prison or Elimination Chamber. And when you get 2 Elimination Chambers in a night, when you get a Punjabi Prison match like once every God knows how often, but you get cage matches thrown in and 3 Hell in a Cells. No, I know, right? 2, 3 Hell in a Cell matches. It just wears thin on the whole concept of what the match should be. But unfortunately, that's what happens when you have 2 brands and you need to do several match types to encourage. Like, I was utterly surprised that the Money in the Bank wasn't a cross-promotional thing at like a SummerSlam or something else, so that each brand could have one. And instead, they went for the men's and the women's, which is a good idea in concept, but they blew it. The big question is, how many TLC matches are we going to get in 2 weeks' time?
That is a good question.
Well, we're definitely not going to have a tag match because Jeff's out with an injury, but like that's a story for another time, and I'm sure we'll have that conversation. As such, we've been going for about 2.5 hours, so I think
just as long as a pay-per-view. So
yeah, it's pretty much.
Okay. Let's boil this down.
Let's go home there.
Mark out of 10 for this pay-per-view, starting with you, John.
I would have to give this a very condable 7.5. I'd say. Yeah, I'm gonna be the awkward one here. Definitely the highlights were the 2 cell matches, of course. The triple threat was good, but the problem with women's match, the Rusev, Randy Orton, and Bobby Roode, Dolph Ziggler, it wasn't that strong from those matches to kind of like make it any higher. So yeah, 7.5 from myself.
Okay, I was actually also going to go 7.5 actually. Best match of the night was the tag team match. It was very much well, follow that then, and sadly no one else could, but enjoyable for the most part. I just wish they would remember that the Hell in a Cell is something that is supposed to. It's like nobody ever gets in. That was the entire original concept, and it's kind of gone by the wayside. I know, but that last match was a bit sort of pissing all over the concept. Really, it was a cage match with a roof on it, as opposed to a Hell in a Cell match. That's what it was. But yeah, 7.5. Best match, tag team. Worst match, Orton. Orton Rusev, and
I would agree,
and not for anything Rusev did. Pete.
It's a 6 out of 10 for me. Yeah, if we were going to put it in American grades, I'd say it's a very solid B-. It's better than a C grade, but it's not good enough to be a solid B. The highs were good, but the lows outnumbered them. The high points are obviously the more memorable spots, the 2 cell matches having the more of them, more than anything else. The lows, unfortunately, were the matches that were cut short for obviously an overrunning pay-per-view for, the longer run time, to confuse storylines, which didn't, we've come up with better stories to be told, just sat here in 2.5 hours for what could happen. Now, obviously, hindsight can play a part in that, but there's a good part that says, if we can think of these, why can't writers who get paid stupid amounts of money actually think of better ways to do these stories?
Because we're dumb smarks. We don't know any better.
But yeah, the lows just outnumber the highs, unfortunately. And again, when you're going to have 2 profile Hell in a Cell matches, as Kevin said, one which obviously played well to the actual theory of keeping people out, and one that didn't, and one being, once again, a testament to the tag team, the 2 top parts of that tag team division doing the most amazing work that we've seen from the division for quite a while, especially on the blue brand. Raw's coming that way, but SmackDown's definitely there. The tag match obviously has match of the night with McMahon Owens following very closely behind. But again, I think as Kevin mentioned earlier on, when you have a pot spot that completely eclipses the entire match, you kind of lose what the match is there for.
Well, so
I'm sure there's lots we could talk about in Talking Smack, but as a quick rundown, it's people doing really good promos but losing the persona they're meant to be and leading into what could possibly be future storylines to something else.
Especially AJ Styles, which Kevin, I think you pointed out earlier, was, or was it you Pete?
Pete.
I was Pete.
I'm not saying Talking Smack. So.
All right. Of course,
I know what
I
you
forget.
said,
Yeah, but as Pete was saying, that evident of like AJ Styles wanting to stay away, move on from
it was very much
the US title.
He'd want to get out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we'll see what it comes from. As always, you can see much more contributions on the internet, specifically the Last Minute to site or the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ this is where Kevin interjects
well, because it's the way YouTube is, it's /C/last minute continue.
And I'm sure that'll be on the screen as we mention it. With the work of editing magic, it's there. In terms of Twitters, I'm sure Kevin has done some magic thing where they'll be available. But John, for the sake of the viewers, if we do this ever in an audio thing, where can they find you on the social media?
If you want to find me on the social medias, it is simply on Twitter @TurboXLR.
And the man who does Magic Call live streams as well over on the Last Minute Continue stream page. Mr. Kevin Eva, where can they find you on the social medias?
If you are so inclined, you can find me on Twitter @TheKevinEva. There are several, but I'm the one. And if you want to follow Last Minute Continue, it is @LastMinContinue on Twitter as well. And as for you, Pete?
Well, I was going to say you can also be seen doing multiple live streams during the week as well. But myself, if you want to follow this brand of bearded madness on the social media, you can follow me on my personal one on... what do you want to do? We can't call this the three dudes of beard. Yeah, but look at this.
It's our stable. It's our stable.
If you want to follow me on the social medias, you can find my personal one at Titans Creed. If you want to follow my YouTube one, you can follow it at The Gaming Phoenix. Sorry, at Gaming Phoenix it is. And you can follow me doing some YouTube speciality over on youtube.com/Project Phoenix. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Last Minute Kickout with the three of us, men with beards. Until the next time, which will probably be in a couple of weeks' time after Tables, Ladders and Chairs, we'll see you next time.
Beard, day rocks. Beard,
Beard,
day rocks.
day rocks.
Beard.
I'm not sure what it is. Can that.
Bye, bye.
Bye bye.